Well, good afternoon. Mike Gillespie here in the KIII Digital Center, and we appreciate you joining us this afternoon. We, of course, have been watching as the funeral has happened this afternoon for Corpus Christi Police Officer Kyle Hicks, who died in the line of duty after being shot back on April 20th. Media not allowed into that ceremony with cameras happening at First Baptist Church down along Ocean Drive, but there are some activities that are planned for afterward. That funeral beginning at 1 o'clock this afternoon, and as we understand it, people are starting to file out of the building right now. So we do have a live crew there in a section that they have cornered off for the media in order to be able to set up cameras and interviews and things like that. And in just a moment, we're going to take a look at that and get an idea of what they're seeing out there and what's happening there at the church. Again, the First Baptist Church along Ocean Drive. Lots of things planned for the funeral service, and then again, of course, afterwards. We understand there will be a 21-gun salute that will be taking place, perhaps an end-of-watch call, and also then, as we understand it, there is the chance that the police officers will drive past the Corpus Christi Police Headquarters building in a procession honoring, again, Police Officer Kyle Hicks. Now, what you're seeing now is a live picture. This is a part of the honor guard who is there, again, presumably to give that 21-gun salute, also called a 3-rifle volley. And it's something that they do particularly for officers who have died in the line of duty, something that they will do in order to honor and to commemorate the life of that particular officer. As I mentioned a moment ago, and you'll see our camera panning and moving from time to time, you see our Bill Churchwell, who's there live as well. You see officers, many officers who were there as a part of the funeral service today, coming out of the First Baptist Church, and we presume that they will be lining up in procession here in just a few moments. A lot of honor and a lot of ceremony tied to these kinds of services, these kinds of events, and deservedly so. They take great care in order to honor and to remember a fellow officer who has fallen in the line of duty. And so much tradition, a lot of pomp and circumstance that is to be seen here in something like this. And again, we're just going to ask you, because this is a live feed that we're giving you here, so we're going to ask you just to kind of bear with us as we see people walking in front of cameras, and as cameras move in order to get different angles and different shots. We hope, certainly, that you'll understand that there's going to be a lot of that happening here. We did have our Bill Churchwell, who was in the service, was able to view the funeral service, I believe. Again, they did not allow cameras or media to come inside and participate in the celebration of life for Officer Hicks. However, they do have us set up on the outside, and that's the picture that you're seeing here now, as Corpus Christi police officers and so many others coming out of the church after a celebration of life to remember Officer Kyle Hicks. Now again, you can see this is along Ocean Drive, and these gentlemen standing at attention, as they have been doing for quite some time now. We assume waiting for the signal where they will be offering there at the site of the church building the 3-rifle volley, or the 21-gun salute as we know it better here. Lots of things happening this morning in the service. Several speakers were involved in that, and all of them remembering Officer Kyle Hicks, using words like compassionate, honest, talking about him being a person of strong moral principles. And from all that we have heard about Officer Hicks, those are certainly words that resonated with the crowd and ring true of the person who he was. Officer Hicks, of course, losing his life back after being shot on April 20th while serving our great city and responding to a domestic disturbance call, and then passing away just a few days later on April the 24th. Officer Hicks had not been a police officer for that long. In fact, he just graduated from the academy in January of last year, January of 2023. So the 32-year-old Officer Kyle Hicks had only been a police officer for a little over a year, but yet as we understand it and as others have spoken about him, they say this was absolutely a dream that he had, was to be able to serve as a police officer, and was so grateful to be able to be given the chance to do that here in Corpus Christi. You see many of the dignitaries moving out, Sheriff Hooper there. We saw council members, Gil Hernandez. There's Mayor Paulette Guajardo. We saw earlier Sylvia Campos and Jim Klein, other council members. We suspect that most, if not all of them, were there this morning to take part in this, as our city honors Officer Hicks as well, and stands by our police department in the tremendous service that they are doing in being able to remember their fallen comrade. And again, we are looking at this live. This is from the First Baptist Church along Ocean Drive, and you see so many gathering for what we suspect in just a few moments will be a 21-gun salute honoring Officer Hicks. Many times these are done at a cemetery, at a graveside service, but this is going to happen here at the First Baptist Church, which is our understanding, this afternoon. And so we will have that, and we will try to listen in on that just as soon as we can. In the meantime, a little bit about Officer Hicks. Some have been following this story. In fact, I'd say most of us here in Corpus Christi have been following this story very closely. A 32-year-old man who lost his life in the line of duty, leaves behind a wife and 4 children, ages 9, 7, 5, and 3, so a very young family. Officer Hicks was raised actually, or was born and spent a big majority of his childhood in the Seattle area in Everett, Washington, if you know much about the northeast part of our great nation. And came with his family to Texas, to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, to Arlington, back in 1992 when he was just 12 years old, or 2004 rather, excuse me. He was born in 1992, moved here in 2004 when he was 12. Another interesting component of this story, and something that you have heard maybe bits and pieces of along the way, is that Officer Hicks was an employee at Chick-fil-A. In fact, that's where he met his wife. They were married, and at one point he was a Chick-fil-A general manager. But again, having that dream and that desire to be a part of a police department, and he had that chance after attending the police academy and graduating in late January of 2023, just after his 31st birthday. This is a live look along Ocean Drive at the First Baptist Church, where they have just concluded the funeral service for Officer Kyle Hicks. Many folks still there, many folks gathering, lots of hugs, and we saw earlier a few tears. I'm imagining a very emotional service, and we will put our notes together, and we'll have more of that to share coming up later this evening on 3 News. But for now, we are taking a live look at what has been a very solemn event. Not a lot of laughing and joking and things like that, because even more so at events like this, they just don't seem to be appropriate. And so people there using the reverence and the dignity that is required at something like this, and certainly using the respect that we would bring to an event like this in order to honor Officer Kyle Hicks. Again, as they talked about Officer Hicks and his family and friends and others have remembered him, they have talked about the fact that he was a musically gifted individual. In fact, loved to play instruments like the guitar and the piano. And we're told that spent many times at night singing to his 4 young children. And so those were the kinds of memories that we suspect are being shared among those who were gathered there. And you see now the focus on the honor guard, the flags that are flying there. In just a moment, we suspect that we'll just watch as they begin to move, and we will then, when they are ready, listen in for the 21-gun salute. We are remembering CCPD Officer Kyle Hicks. The funeral began at 1 o'clock and concluded about 10 minutes or so ago, at least the inside portion, the in-the-building service, funeral service that was had. You can see now everyone has gathered out on the large lawn in front of the church building where several more things will happen. And we see our Bill Churchwell, in fact, there in that shot. And Bill is one of the cameras that we have there on the ground, making sure that we are able to see everything that's happening and not miss anything that's important and be able to bring that to you as well. Officer Hicks losing his life back in April after being shot in the line of duty on April 20th and succumbing to his injuries on the 24th of April. And one of the things that I noted as I was doing a little study and reading is that Officer Hicks and his wife would have celebrated their 10th anniversary last Friday. And so you can imagine that certainly adds to the emotion and even more so all that is swirling around just because of the event itself. And then as they pass what would have been their 10th anniversary and then quickly move here, that was on a Friday, and then here on a Tuesday, attending the funeral and remembering Officer Hicks, his family, certainly his wife, his children, and all of the emotions that come with that, all of the thoughts, all of the things that they have to go through. We mentioned that whenever a fallen officer is remembered in this way and there is this kind of service, there's a lot of tradition and a lot of things, a lot of honor that goes with that in order that other officers and really other city leaders might show their respect. And for a family who is grieving and who has been through the emotional roller coaster of putting together service details, and in some senses you want it perhaps to be a smaller and private affair, but when someone chooses to serve the way that Officer Hicks has, this is what you usually end up with, and I think families understand that, and so you begin to think in a much broader scale and in much larger terms than maybe you would otherwise, and it's almost impossible to keep these things private, nor would they perhaps have wanted to, as this does give the city a chance to grieve publicly. It gives our police department a chance to do the things that they do whenever an officer has reached the end of watch, as they have referred to it here. Again, if you're just now joining us, this is live. We are looking at the First Baptist Church on the lawn and seeing so many who gathered for the funeral service of Corpus Christi Police Officer Kyle Hicks. That ended just about 15 minutes or so ago. And since then, people have come out onto the front area and have all turned their attention to the honor guard and to the ceremony that we know is going to be happening here shortly. It does take a while for those things to be in place and for people to get ready. And we watch and see movement there, and we see perhaps family members and others as they are moving through the process of offering their final respects in order to say goodbye to Officer Hicks. Now, in just a few moments, we know, and we saw earlier, those standing by with the 21-gun salute, or as is also known, the 3-rifle volley, something where the honor guard, the 7 members of the honor guard, will each fire their rifle 3 times. Oftentimes that is followed by the playing of taps. I don't know exactly what will happen here, other than that has been tradition, and certainly that is something that we will see together here live in just a few moments as we are watching again the ceremony, the end of the celebration of life service for Officer Hicks. I've asked you just to forgive us when you see our cameras moving around because, again, as this is live, we may be having to move in order to get out of people's way or to try to perhaps get a better picture for you. What you're looking at now downtown is the police cruiser that we have showed you several times over the past few weeks. That was in place almost immediately after Officer Hicks was wounded while answering that call on the 20th of April. The police cruiser was set out, and almost immediately people began to place flowers and other things, other points of tribute in order to remember the officer, doing what they can as a way of saying publicly, this is a service that will not be forgotten. This is a man who we recognize has rendered a tremendous service for our city. And so on the one side, we're seeing live downtown the police cruiser where there are still flyers and others continue to be added, flowers rather, and others continue to be added daily. On the other side is a look from the church, the First Baptist Church on Ocean Drive in Corpus Christi, not very far, in fact, from the police station. And so there are many people who were gathered there. And as you see, there are many who were standing in front of what appears to be a portrait of Officer Hicks there over to the side. And so we're endeavoring to try to get an idea. They do have the media moved to a location where we are guessing a little bit about some of the things that are happening here. But we are trying to stay in contact with those who are directing the event and getting the information that we can so that we'll know what's coming up and what it is that they plan to do. But you see again, people standing very solemnly, very somberly, as you would expect at a service of this nature and of one that means as much not only to his family but means so much for our city. We noted earlier several city officials who have come out and were a part of that funeral service and who are now taking part in the things that are going to be happening there since that service has ended. Officer Hicks, of course, being remembered as one who was not only valiant in the line of duty, but again being remembered today at the ceremony as someone with a particular amount of integrity. Speaking of the strong moral principles that he had, something that would carry him well as a police officer here in Corpus Christi. And we're seeing now a live picture again. This is downtown near the police headquarters. That's on the left side of the screen that you're seeing there. That is the cruiser that has been out there for a few weeks now, and some of the flowers that have been laid and other trinkets and things that have been laid in honor of Officer Hicks. We see to the right the movement by the Honor Guard, who appear to be preparing to offer the 21-gun salute. A lot of ceremony in this kind of a ceremony, a lot of respect and honor being paid for Officer Hicks. And so as we watch, we will turn our microphone off if they begin to offer that, so that we can together watch and see that as it happens live. So much happening there again following that service and following that ceremony as people have moved out into this area. And so we continue to move our cameras as best we can to try to not miss anything that's going on there. And sometimes you'll see the cameras move erratically, and that's just because we want to catch all that is happening. One of the things that is a part of the tradition, anytime you have a ceremony such as this, is the playing of the bagpipes. And we see that happening there now. Many times it is a song that we are familiar with, Amazing Grace, that's being played. And I can't hear exactly what it is that they're playing, but were I to guess, I would think that may be what we would be hearing now if we were there. We see others, presumably family members and police officers. We see Chief Markle there walking away from the camera as they have come out of the church building and now appear to be a part of the procession. Flying overhead appears to be, again, what I would guess is a Coast Guard helicopter. We saw that when they were moving Officer Hicks's body from the hospital to the airport so that he could fly to the Dallas area where his organs would be donated. I'm beginning to hear a little bit of the bagpipes that are being played there. And my guess on this one was right, which was a pretty easy guess. It is the song, Amazing Grace. As the music has come to a close, there are now other things that will be happening. Again, very formal, very planned. There is always a very precise method to these kinds of things, and particular when you are dealing with a service, an honor, and a tribute for a fallen police officer. You can see in the archway there officers who appeared to have moved forward, and so we suspect that there will be some movement there as a salute now happens, a final salute for Officer Hicks. We saw there the flag being unveiled and are moving back now toward the honor guard for the 21-gun salute. The 3-rifle volley in remembrance of fallen Corpus Christi police officer Kyle Hicks. Very faintly you can hear, as we thought would happen, the playing of taps. We have been watching as officers were taking great care and taking time to fold the flag that we assume will be presented then to the family of Officer Hicks, his wife, their 4 children, his parents, his in-laws, so many family members who have been impacted and affected by the death in the line of duty of Officer Hicks. There is a precision to these moments, and they have played out in scenes like this so many times before. And while it is not something that you want to see, something in fact you may hope that you never have to see, it certainly is something that you can appreciate and admire. And I'm speaking, of course, in terms of the precision that they use, the ceremony, the well thought out plans, the painstaking way that they choose to remember a Corpus Christi police officer. And again, hard to see from the vantage point where they have the media, but we were able to notice police officers, Chief Mike Markle, who appeared to be taking the flag that had been folded and, as we presume, is now presenting that flag to the family, down on one knee, speaking, we believe, with the widow of Officer Hicks. They would have celebrated, as we mentioned earlier, their 10th anniversary last Friday. And so here we are Tuesday in what must be a torrent of emotions. Police Chief Markle offering the flag to the family, this following the 21-gun salute and the playing of taps, much as we anticipated would happen in this service. The police chief appears now to be accepting a second flag and moving back to the area where the family has been seated. Again, we didn't get a clear picture or an idea of just how many family members are there. We weren't able to see that from our cameras earlier, but we imagine, in addition to his wife, perhaps his 4 children, Officer Hicks's parents, his in-laws, and others who have come today to be a part of this service. What you're looking at on the left of your screen is downtown near the police headquarters. We are thinking that once things are concluded at the First Baptist Church there on Ocean Drive, that the police officers will line up in procession for a final drive past the police station. Again, I have not heard that confirmed, but again, as you have seen some of these kinds of ceremonies and you kind of know the order of how things work, that's something that we are anticipating that they will perhaps do, and if that's the case, then certainly we will be able to see from both ends of that. But right now, the attention on the family of Officer Hicks and on the ceremony to follow, that has followed, rather, the funeral service that happened earlier today inside the church building. And as we have noted, they moved outside where so much of what we're seeing now is happening, and again, where people have stayed in order to pay their full respect and tribute to an officer who gave his life in serving our community and who has died in the line of duty. You may be wondering what we were hearing. I believe that's a part of the final radio call. The end of watch, another solemn ceremony honoring police officers who have passed away in the line of duty, in this case, a way to pay tribute not only to their service, but also to their sacrifice. Members of the family and others now being escorted away from the crowd, perhaps back into the First Baptist Church. So many there standing at attention, offering a salute to the memory of Officer Hicks. We are watching live the end of the Celebration of Life service held this afternoon for fallen police officer Kyle Hicks. And now we have come to the end of the ceremonies that were planned there outside of the building. And you see there in the background the portrait of Officer Kyle Hicks. The church bells now chiming. The service began at about 1 o'clock this afternoon and finished just after 2. And that's when people were moved very quickly out to the front area of the church building, where they have taken time again to add to that celebration of life and to honor Officer Hicks. You can hear the church bells ringing. We don't know how long it will take, but we believe that what will come next in the process will be, as you see the honor guard there, it will be a procession of police vehicles, perhaps others, who will do a final drive past the Corpus Christi Police Station. Again, that is what has typically happened in these circumstances. I don't have that confirmed, but we do believe that that's what will be happening, and perhaps these are the officers who will be moving into place in order for that procession to get ready. Officer Hicks, just 32 years old when he was killed in the line of duty. He had not been a police officer for very long, in fact, just over a year, and he'd been serving with our police department. You see there City Manager Peter Zanoni, and I believe next to him, Councilman Roland Barrera. Others that we saw earlier, as we mentioned, most, if not all, of our city council members there in attendance. Lots of people from the city, and of course our men and women in blue who serve our community through our Corpus Christi Police Department. Yeah, it will likely take a few moments for people to get organized in order for that drive past to take place. We do have a camera there at the police station. You can see, in fact, on the left part of your screen, that's the cruiser that was put out there as Officer Hicks, after he was shot, and as we were waiting for news, as he was fighting for his life. And many people visited that, and even more so after Officer Hicks passed away. You see many of the flowers and other things that have been placed on the cruiser. People have been coming just about nonstop. I mean, anytime we have been down there with a camera or anytime we had checked into that scene, it was not hard to find people who many times openly grieving, other times silently, standing with heads bowed, perhaps in a moment of thought, in a word of prayer, as they remembered, and just in a very small and seemingly insignificant, but in fact very significant way, paid their own honor to fallen Officer Kyle Hicks. Now, we don't know how much longer they will leave that out, but we do know that you see some of the cones there and that area that has been blocked off here for a few weeks now, and has given so many people a chance to come and to visit that memorial, and just to share some of what they can, some of themselves perhaps, just in a small way to let the family of Officer Hicks know just how much this city appreciates his service, and more than that, how indebted we are for his sacrifice. Back at the church, which is what you're seeing on the right, we continue to hear the church bells chime. We see people looks like some of them beginning to disperse. I think some of them waiting to see what will happen next and what direction they'll be going. We believe that there will be a procession down to the police station, and if so, we're going to follow that. Again, there is Chief Markle, City Manager Peter Zanoni. We've recognized other people who work with the city. Mike Pusley, our City Councilman, Everett Roy, also there. We saw Sylvia Campos just a bit earlier. So again, as we surmised earlier, and Gil Hernandez, our city council members there as a part of this ceremony, as a part of this celebration of life, and Councilman Jim Klein walking by now. And because they are all together and walking in the same direction, perhaps they are going to be a part of the procession as well. We're not sure about that, but that would be my guess as I saw them just kind of moving in that direction. We'll see if Mr. Pusley and Mr. Barrera move in that direction as well. And it looks as though they are. We know there is a precision to this, but when you're dealing with this many people and trying to get folks in the right spot, sometimes it takes a bit of time, and that certainly is the case here. And so you have to just kind of have a bit of patience if you're watching this at home or perhaps from your streaming device, maybe even at work. We do appreciate you joining us. Again, we were not allowed to be with cameras or microphones inside the service, but so much has happened since the celebration of life ended and since they moved out to the front lawn area of the church there, the First Baptist Church on Ocean Drive. We've been able to see in very solemn progression police officers. You see there, it looks as though they are carrying the ashes of Kyle Hicks, who was cremated, and now we believe that they will take this and move toward the procession that will include a drive-by downtown past the police station. You see other officers removing their hats, saluting, hand over heart, honoring Officer Hicks. Seeing the officers and seeing how deliberately everyone moves as they move his ashes toward the hearse, you just get an overwhelming sense of how solemn these things are, and of how well planned and well timed they are, and of really the tradition that goes into a service like this. The hearse from the Guardian Funeral Home, where we understand there were officers earlier who were standing watch, as they do in these kinds of events, before the hearse and the ashes of Officer Hicks were taken to the church for the celebration of life service. Panning over there, you see some of the motorcycle officers who, anytime there is a procession or any kind of movement like this, they play such a key and vital role in seeing that it is done orderly without putting anyone in danger. And you just think about that and how hard it must be to move that many people, that many vehicles through any kind of procession, and yet they do it almost, it seems to us, it seems to outsiders, almost effortlessly. And yet again, they are following a plan, and they have staked out a route, and they do all that they can to ensure the safety of anyone who may be along that route. The church bells continue to chime at the First Baptist Church, where the celebration of life for Officer Hicks began at about 1 o'clock this afternoon and wrapped up just after 2 o'clock, before everyone was taken out to the front lawn area, where we were able to see not only the 21-gun salute, but also the presentation of the flags to the officer's family. The family then escorted back inside the church building. And right now we are watching as everyone kind of gets into place for what we believe will be a final procession. An officer dying in the line of duty is not something that is easy on anyone by any stretch of the imagination. I think we are all aware of that. It becomes perhaps even more heartbreaking when you think of the fact that he was, number one, such a young man at just 32 years of age, but also that he has 4 kids who they themselves are very young in age, from 9 on down to 3. And you think about those children now learning about their father and hearing the stories and the memories, but now facing life without their father. And that is, of course, something that all of the men and women who serve in our police department, our fire department, other first responders, that's all something that they all know is a possibility. And yet, knowing that is a possibility and knowing that there is the chance of tragedy happening, they still willingly put themselves out in front and serve and move into dangerous situations in order to keep us safe and in order to do the things that perhaps others would not be willing to do and would not want to do. And yet that does not take away from the tragedy of a husband and wife who last Friday would have celebrated their 10th anniversary, of young children who are now growing up without a father. One of the things we were able to report on yesterday that we found out is that perhaps in a small way, and yet it is significant, of easing the burden of Officer Hicks's wife, of his family, there's a group that has stepped in to pay off the mortgage on their home. A very kind and magnanimous gesture, And their reasoning behind that is not only to honor his service and sacrifice, but also just to take a little bit of the worry and the care away at a time when a family is dealing with so many other things and so many emotions and so many things to now concern yourself with, and plans that have to be made, and unfortunately plans that have to be altered, and things that have to be changed, things that you were perhaps counting on that now will not happen, things that you had never thought about or even dreamed of that now are happening. And so in some small way, it is less of a worry to think about the fact that your children are not going to have to move from that house, and you'll be able to stay there as long as you want, knowing that the mortgage was paid off. And so again, just another way that many are honoring one of our fallen first responders here in Corpus Christi. We're looking at the motorcycle officers who are waiting to get the word, and once that word is given, they will lead what we suspect will be a lengthy procession that we believe will be headed downtown, and will be moving past the memorial, past the police station as a final drive past in honor of Officer Kyle Hicks. We mentioned as we began this particular broadcast that Officer Hicks was actually born in the Seattle area. If you know much about the Pacific Northwest, then you know the area of Everett, Washington, which I've actually been to many times, not far from Seattle, and was raised there until he was 12 years old when his family moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, specifically to Arlington, when he was about 12 years old, and his family says that's when he proudly became a Texan. He then began his career as an employee at Chick-fil-A, where he met the young lady who would eventually become his wife. And Officer Hicks, before his time with the Corpus Christi Police Department, actually had become a general manager with Chick-fil-A. And so many in our community are familiar with him in his work prior to being a police officer. And many had met him through his service with Chick-fil-A and through his time there as a general manager. And we have heard that it was that sense of service that was instilled within him that not only led him to have that career, a very successful, by anyone's account, career at Chick-fil-A, but then also led him to fulfill a dream of serving again our city by becoming a Corpus Christi police officer, something he did when he attended our police academy and graduated in January of last year, January of 2023, and had served, that was just after his 31st birthday, and had served for just over a year in fulfilling that dream as a Corpus Christi police officer. Those who have talked about him say he was a man of strong moral principles, honest, quiet in nature, and many times would speak only when spoken to. And yet, they also pointed out that he had what would be considered a unique sense of humor, and as you might expect, was one who just tried to soak every moment possible out of life. We're looking at the split screen here. On the right, the officers who were still at the First Baptist Church on Ocean Drive, and then further down at John Sartain, where the Corpus Christi Police Headquarters building is, you see other officers moving into place, which confirms our suspicion, as we were telling you earlier, that we believe this procession will leave the First Baptist Church and then move very quickly downtown as they drive past the police headquarters there in the area of John Sartain over at Water Street, where you see it looks like other units have moved in and have blocked off a part of that area, which tells us that very soon that procession should be moving, and that is indeed the direction that they will be heading. Our intention is to stay with this live broadcast until that happens. Obviously, we do have both cameras that are working, the one there at the church building where we'll be able to see the procession leave, and then the other there at police headquarters, where it will be no time at all, because they are not that far apart, where we will see the procession coming into play there. Again, they do this as just a final, it goes really with the last radio call, the end of watch that we heard earlier there at the First Baptist Church, the ceremony honoring the police officer who has died in the line of duty, a way of offering their tribute during a ceremony like that. And this final drive past comes as a part of that. And again, just another one of the ways that they invoke tradition and ceremony in honoring their fellow police officer. We see some movement there as the motorcycle officers appear to be getting ready to move. Again, this is live from the First Baptist Church, where just after 2 o'clock they ended the celebration of life for Officer Kyle Hicks. And after a 21-gun salute, the playing of Amazing Grace on the bagpipes, the playing of taps, and the offering of the flags, the presentation of the flags to his family. People have then moved to their vehicles. Officers have moved back to their patrol units. They have taken the ashes of Officer Hicks to the hearse that is located just behind these motorcycle police officers. And where in just a moment, we believe they will begin their final ride. The engines starting, the lights, another indication that they are about to begin that journey as we see them leaving the grounds of the First Baptist Church, followed by police units, and there with the flags draped on either side of the hearse, the ashes of fallen Corpus Christi police officer Kyle Hicks. Now, we don't know for certain whether there will be other police units who will join this procession, who are waiting for this part of it to pass by, or whether this, in fact, will be the totality of the procession. Again, much of this has been guesswork here on our part, just with what we have seen in the past in other similar circumstances. But there, the long limousine, two, in fact, that we believe are carrying members of the family, more police units. As to how many there will be, we do not have an exact number or a count, but we were guessing earlier that there would be many of them. Not only police officers, city council members, other city dignitaries and officials who were a part of this procession as they are leaving the bayfront there. Many other motorcycles now joining that procession. And again, we don't know how many more are parked back there, but we continue to see the now unmarked patrol units that have joined in, right along with those that clearly say Corpus Christi Police on the back and on the side, and others who we believe are carrying many of the officials of the Corpus Christi Police Department as they participate in this final drive past their destination, the police station downtown here at John Sartain. You saw the Border Patrol truck go by there, and that's not unusual because as we keep mentioning the Corpus Christi Police Department, really this is something that all law enforcement agencies are a part of, and certainly they send representatives and try to pay their respects as well. And remember that what has happened here could just as easily have happened in their particular branch and in their particular area. And so we saw members of the sheriff's office earlier. We had a quick glimpse of the Department of Public Service, of state troopers who were here. We've seen officers from the Port of Corpus Christi. And so really so much representation from law enforcement in our area who were there today as a part of the service, who are now a part of the final procession as the hearse is taken, escorted, and followed by so many others on their way from the First Baptist Church down Ocean Drive to the area downtown near the Corpus Christi Police Department headquarters. You're looking at the split screen there, and there on the left again where the memorial is down by the headquarters. Already police have been in place. They've been there for several minutes where they've been diverting traffic and really helping people kind of navigate, and so much of their duty there is to really try to keep that area clear. We know that, as you can see on the sidewalk, people will be lining up, wanting to see, wanting to watch something that they hope really they never have to see and won't ever have to see again. But it is the reality in jobs like this and with first responders that you will see something like this. And so people lining up along the sidewalk, others parking in some of the parking lots there as they begin to get a sense of what's happening and just wanting to watch and perhaps be a part of saying their final goodbye to Officer Hicks. So much of our city offering an outpouring of support and of appreciation to his family, a reminder of just how much we appreciate those who serve us in so many different ways. And you get an idea of just how long this procession is. It has been several minutes since the motorcycle officers began as they were leading the procession. And on the right side of your screen, you see that there are still officers coming out of the parking lot. We didn't get a good picture earlier of just how many were parked there, but this does give us a pretty good idea as they are still driving out. And so it gives you an idea of just how lengthy, which again, something we thought might happen, just how lengthy this is, just with the law enforcement agencies and the law enforcement officers who are here in our area. And then on top of that, family and other dignitaries and members of the city who want to be a part of this, and the cars continue to go by. We are continuing our live streaming coverage of the events following the Celebration of Life service for fallen Corpus Christi police officer Kyle Hicks. These are the officers and others who were still leaving the First Baptist Church there on Ocean Drive along our beautiful bayfront, where the Celebration of Life service began at 1 o'clock this afternoon, and just after 2, where many of the ceremonies and the tributes then took place outside of the building and out on the front lawn for so many others to be a part of. And certainly that's where media was, and that's where we were able to see the 21-gun salute. We saw the bagpipes walking in very somber fashion, playing that old tune, Amazing Grace. We heard the final watch radio call, the end of watch call for Officer Hicks. And the 21-gun salute there that happened on the lawn of the First Baptist Church. It should be any moment now where the procession, which on one end is still leaving the First Baptist Church, on the other end should begin to arrive as they drive past the police station with the hearse carrying the ashes of Officer Hicks, the limousines carrying family members, and so many Corpus Christi police officers, other first responders who have been there today to take part and who are now taking part in this procession. It has been several minutes now since they first left the First Baptist Church, and you see there on the left side of your screen, that's where we expect to see them come driving by, and where many of the spectators who were downtown are there watching. But there on the right side of your screen, as you see there on the left, the motorcycles now arriving at the Corpus Christi Police Department, even as other officers and other vehicles were still leaving the First Baptist Church. If you know the distance between the two, while it is not great, it does give you a sense of just how many people are involved here. They are driving past now Corpus Christi Police Department headquarters. There, the hearse displaying the flags, family members following, all passing, all getting a final look perhaps at the memorial that has been there by way of a police cruiser and flowers offered in memory of Officer Kyle Hicks. You get a sense of just how somber something like this is and can be. And I don't want to talk over it just, to hear the sound of my voice. I think if you've been watching, and even if you've just joined us here, you do have a sense of what's happening. And for just a moment, you just take in the honor, the tribute for the sacrifice of Officer Hicks as these officers drive by. Now, I can tell you that, again, we expect that this will take several minutes because, as you see, there are still many, many people who haven't even made it out of the First Baptist Church parking lot yet. As I said earlier, we didn't have a precise shot of the cars that were lined up there and of just how many people may have been involved in the service, the celebration of life for Officer Hicks that happened earlier this afternoon. But now watching, you get the sense that not only were they in the parking lot, they must have been lined up along the backside there, perhaps along Santa Fe, parked down the street. Because we know that it's a big parking lot, but we have seen so many units that have left, and now it appears that the last one is just now made its way out of the First Baptist Church parking lot there and is headed down Ocean Drive toward the Corpus Christi Police Department. That being said, we'll go back to the Corpus Christi Police Department. This again is a live look as the officers, not only from the CCPD, but also other law enforcement agencies here in town, in our area, even from other parts of the state, are honoring Officer Hicks as they do a final drive past the Corpus Christi Police Department headquarters downtown. Many people standing at attention, watching. We saw earlier there were those who just kind of heard the news as it spread through the crowds of people who were there and just found themselves places to stand on the sidewalk to watch something that you don't see that often, and in fact you hope you really never have to witness, because it does denote something that has happened that is a tragedy to a family, to a department, and to our city. What you are watching is a live picture downtown as we are streaming the drive past the Corpus Christi Police Department headquarters in honor of Officer Kyle Hicks. Many, many coming to be a part of this. Earlier, we saw the police officers on motorcycle who escorted the hearse carrying the remains of Officer Hicks. The limousines carrying members of his family. We caught just small glimpses of them earlier. As we told you, Officer Hicks, who was only 32 years old, leaving behind 4 very young children, ranging in age from 3 up to 9. And even though his tenure with the Corpus Christi Police Department was brief, in fact, just over a year, having just graduated from the police academy back in January of 2023, you had a sense as you talked about, as you got the chance perhaps to interview others as we did, and put some of those thoughts down about Officer Hicks, that a short tenure doesn't mean very much, because you very quickly become a part of a brotherhood, a sisterhood of those who serve in these kinds of jobs, and of those who know all too well the inherent risk that comes with them, but also know the rewards and the satisfaction of service that comes in being able to have these kinds of jobs. And that was the case for Officer Hicks. Again, not a part of the police force for very long, but we can imagine that in that short time, as he was fulfilling something that we have been told was a desire and in fact a dream of his, something he was able to do, and in that short time was able to endear himself not only to those who worked most closely with him, but also those who were a part of the bigger force and the bigger law enforcement agency community at large. That is why you see a response like this. It is because of the sacrifice. It is because of the thing that happens that they hope never happens, and yet as is too often the case, does happen. You are watching live downtown as traffic has been diverted there in front of the police station near the memorial that has been set up since the tragic shooting of Officer Kyle Hicks in the line of duty. So many different and various law enforcement agencies paying their respects in something as simple, but something that is as steeped in tradition as what we're able to see here, the final drive past. The procession continues to move past with many vehicles involved, and we don't have a sense of where it will end, but we did note earlier that as it was arriving downtown, there were still vehicles leaving the First Baptist Church, which gives you an idea of just how long the procession is, and appropriately so. Many were invited to be a part and quickly accepted that invitation. It's just a small way of showing their honor and offering their tribute, not only to the men and women of the department, but also in this case, and in particular, in a very solemn way, to Officer Hicks. As you saw earlier, and as we mentioned, we did have one of our reporters, Bill Churchwell, there, and he was able to be inside the First Baptist Church building and was able to listen in to the service, and then of course was able to see all that we were able to bring you as we began streaming here just a little after 2 o'clock this afternoon. And we do expect that we'll have a full wrap-up and a full report coming up later tonight here on 3 News. That does appear to be the end of the procession as the police officers are moving off now. Where they go from here, we're not exactly sure, but we did want to bring you this. As I mentioned, we will have a full wrap-up of the day's events. That will be coming up tonight on 3 News. We hope that you'll join us at 5 and 6. Stay with us also online on our social media pages for all kinds of information that we'll be able to provide there. For now, though, we're going to sign off. We thank you so much for joining us. I'm Mike Gillespie reporting live from our KIII Digital Center, and we'll see you again at 5.